It's my pleasure to welcome one of the all-time kings of late-night TV. He's coming to Canada, and he's feeling very conflicted about it. He joins me next on Brio TV, the podcast. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Bill Brio. My guest on this episode, it's my great pleasure to introduce him. He's one of the all-time best joke tellers. He's a former Tonight Show host. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jay Leno, who we reached via Zoom at one of his car and motorcycle garages in Southern California. Next month, believe it or not, Jay Leno turns 75. Now, that looked a little iffy there for a while. Jay had a few well-publicized accidents these past few years, but he survived, he's still standing, and he's still doing stand-up, including teaming with fellow late-night rival Arsenio Hall for a comedy showcase May 2nd in Ontario. They'll both be together on stage at Casino Rama. Leno loves doing stand-up, and he's a true road warrior, and not just for his extensive car collection. Yet in this interview, Leno confesses that he has mixed feelings about doing a show in Canada, a country he has seen from coast to coast, where he's performed countless times over the past 50 years. As you'll hear in this exclusive conversation, he is embarrassed about the attacks on Canada from his own president in America, and he's so embarrassed that he considered canceling the gig north of the border. This at a 5,000-seat venue he's sold out a few times over the years. I saw him once there about 10 years ago. I try to assure him that he has nothing to apologize for, and then while Canadians have our elbows up, we can also use the jokes. So here he is, Mr. Jay Leno. Well, listen, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and you're performing May 2nd at Casino Rama, right, and with Arsenio Hall, I believe.
Yeah, that's been great. Arsenio and I have been working together a lot. It's really fun.
Yeah, how does that work? Do you guys interview each other, or do you do separate sets?
No. We met when I'm a little older than he is, so I was kind of established, and he was a new kid starting out, and we got to be friends. And then when, of course, he got the Arsenio Hall show, then we became rivals, and the press made a big deal about it. But yeah, it was actually funny. I'll tell you a funny story about that. They really try to make it like you hate each other, Right. So when we were opposite each other, and there was a lot of rivalry. And I remember watching Arsenio's first show, and he was great. He had Brooke Shields, and he said, this show is going to be about the funk. It's going to be about the music. You're not going to see Barry Manilow's ass on this show, and everybody cheered because he was the hip guy, right?
Right.
Well, when you do a talk show, you need everybody. So I would always watch Letterman and Arsenio and Dennis Miller and all the other coaches, because you want to make sure you don't do the same joke.
Right.
You don't. So a couple of months go by, and Arsenio says, next week on the show, Barry Manilow. Oh, that's great. So next day I call his office, I say, can I speak to Arsenio? Yeah, who's calling? Jay Leno. He doesn't want to speak to you. No, this is important. He wants to speak to me. No. Oh. And he goes, no, he doesn't want to speak to you, because we were fighting, No. He goes, what do you want, man? What do you want? I said, next week, Barry Manilow. He fell down laughing.
That is funny.
Because you need everybody, yeah. I always remember Byron Allen, when he was going to do a talk show, he said, my show, no TV personalities, just film.
Wow.
Good luck. There's not enough actors around. You need every single guest you can get. And it's just, I remember, and even Arsenio had to laugh. He started laughing, and we became friends again. It was just very funny.
Well, I wanted to ask if you even watch late night television anymore, and just it's so divided now. You have folks on the left and folks on the right, and I guess audiences that gravitate to one or the other. You had, as you say, you operated, you had a much larger tent, much like Johnny Carson.
Well, the idea it was a plus to be able to make fun of both sides. Now it's a negative. Now you're yelled at because you haven't taken a stand on this issue. And yeah, it's a little, it's a little tricky. I think the thing that's really killed late night is when Letterman and I and Conan, we were all on at the same time. There weren't a lot of options. Now you can watch the complete, you can watch the whole 8 seasons of the Sopranos. You can watch the Godfather trilogy with no. Right. I mean, you have streaming now, and plus television kind of shoots itself in the foot because when revenue goes down, they put on more ads. And whenever I watch any late night show now, there's a monologue for 6 minutes. Yeah. Then easily another 5 or 6 minutes of commercials. Yeah. And we live in an era now where a 30-second commercial is so well produced, it seems like a minute commercial. Yeah. So it seems like, oh my. And then they passed a law from 12 to 12:09 or 12:10, you could put some more commercials after midnight. So almost, if I see Jake from State Farm again, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. It's the same commercial over and over and over again, and I think that's what's really hurt it too. But yeah, we just live in, look at Canada and America. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay. I want to ask you about this. I mean, Jay Leno, you import more car parts than Canada. I mean, what are you going to do now? Like,
my mother was from Scotland.
Mine too, Jay.
Half the family came to America, and half the family went to Canada because some people had a cousin or a brother, and other people had a cousin or brother in New York. Yeah. Okay. So, and they went back and forward. And when I was a kid, I lived in New England, so we would get the Canadian TV shows. I always talk about this, but I would laugh when I'd watch the Littlest Hobo. Remember that show?
Yes.
Which is like the Canadian version of Lassie.
Right.
And I'm watching it one day, and the Littlest Hobo, the dog, is walking along some highway in Canada. It's blinding snow. So the dog sits down, puts his paw up like he's hitchhiking.
Right.
And a car stops and picks him up. And I go, okay, look, Canadians are nice, but they're not nice. They don't pick up hitchhiking dogs. It just, it just made me laugh. And
That's funny.
I love the Canadian. I was doing a show in Hamilton, and I was staying at a hotel that was on the highway. I didn't have a car, and on the other side of the highway was a little mini mall. I had a dollar store, or the Canadian version of a dollar store, and a cafeteria and everything. So I'll walk over there, So I'm just killing some time. I got 7 hours before the show, and I go into the cafeteria and I see this guy looking at me, kind of waves. I go, hey, come over. I said, how you doing? He goes, hey, you there, Jay Leno, that TV fella? I said, yeah. Hey, how you doing? How are you? Good. So we start talking a little bit. What are you doing in town? I got a show. You want to take it? Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I think. So he says to me, this is just made me laugh. He says to me, hey, can I ask you a show business question? I said, yeah, what is it? He goes, those Prel commercials? Where they see the girls or you washing their hair in the shower? I said, yeah. He says, do they have any clothes on those commercials? So I could see his eyes lighting up. I said, yeah. In fact, my friend, he has to shoot those commercials. And legally, they have to be naked because they're taking a shower. He goes, oh, really? Whoa, what's that? He says, how do you get that job? I said, well, he takes his job very seriously. He can't be fooling around. But he went, I'd take it seriously if I had that job. I always said, yeah. But just his whole world revolved around I live in like the home of pornography, Los Angeles. You hear the guy all excited about a girl's naked in a Prel commercial. It just made me laugh. It was
It's very funny.
Yeah, the most Canadian innocent thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Wow. Well, I'm glad do you have a friend in the business who shoots commercials for shampoo ads?
No, of course not. But I could see he was getting all excited and
right.
Up about it.
It does sound like a great job, though.
Yeah.
Now, on when you were doing the Tonight Show, headlines was such a funny part of the show, but now it's all headlines. Jay, how would you navigate this if you were doing the Tonight Show now, would you be less political than we're seeing, or more, or how would you? What would you do? Do you think?
It's interesting when you have a fondness for the people you're making fun of.
Right.
It's a little easier, and the joke can be purer. When you generally dislike the people you're making fun of, then your anger clouds the joke. That's my problem with a lot of late night stuff, depending on which side you're on.
Right.
Well, I know which side I'm on. It just seems to be the same joke over and over. You're just hitting the same subject, this guy's or whatever it might be. But, to me, it was fun when I go, I don't think George Bush quite understands what's happening, and people would smile and you just kind of lob it in, like a softball and hit the ball, Yeah. Now it's everybody's so worked up, so mad, so angry that it's, Like, I don't get this thing with Canada. I'm embarrassed when I go there because I try to be the nice American,
Of course.
I try to be as polite as I can. And then when I meet Canadian people here, I always say, hey, I apologize. They go, oh, we understand, because it's really not the American people. I don't know. Everybody I know is completely befuddled. What are you talking about? I mean, we cross the border to go to a restaurant or wherever it might be. I mean, I don't get it. I'm at Multimatic all the time, which they're part of Ford. They build the GT40s and the Ford race cars and stuff. You're in Windsor, and it's like I don't understand it. I hope it works itself out, but I find it so rude and disrespectful. It's
kind of you to say, Jay. It has been hard to hit. The 51st state stuff has stung, and there's a lot of Canadians very upset. But I have great friends in the United States across the border in Buffalo, buddies who also are on the TV beat, and
right, exactly. And
they're wonderful people. Yeah,
I'm the same way, and it's so disrespectful. As a comedian, I never had a problem with hecklers because I was always able to, for example, like if a big fat guy was heckling me, I would make fun of his tie. Right. And he would sense, oh, why is this guy? Oh, okay. I don't have to kill the guy. I can poke him and have fun with him, but I don't need to stab him. You know what I mean? Right. And I find these comments like Trudeau was our governor. He's the governor, and it's the 51st. There's no reason for it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you would be disrespectful. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I'm baffled. I don't understand.
Particularly being someone who's so, you can take any car apart and put it back together again. You know how intricate this system is with the trade that was established with Canada and Mexico in terms of parts going back and forth just to assemble a car. It would seem to me that this is a very an idea that must really disturb folks in Detroit at General Motors and Chrysler and everywhere else.
I don't know anybody that is for this. Mm-hmm. It just seems so odd. I don't believe that, we're being taken advantage of and people are ripping us off. Our GMP couldn't be better. The economy is actually doing quite compared to the rest of the world. Yeah. I don't understand it. It just, I don't know.
When you come to Casino Rama, will you be, is there a joke so you're maybe thinking of in terms of addressing the situation with Canada and trade and everything?
Not really. You know what I'll do? I'll probably apologize.
Oh, that's a shame that you,
welcome me into there. You know something? When I first started and I went to Canada, I wasn't going to go because I didn't speak French. I didn't want to be insulting by not
Yeah.
being able to when I play Montreal, not being able to speak French, I didn't look like, didn't want to look like the ugly American, just come in with, the price of everything, the value of nothing, that kind of attitude. I mean, I know the way the world sometimes perceives us, and I try not to be that way. And I go out of my way to be overly polite and complimentary. And, I mean, I'm a guest in someone else's country. I don't assume that it's America, and yeah. So I find this, I was almost not going to do these dates because I didn't want to be the ugly American coming in. And
Canadians, we desperately need to laugh right now. So please come and be Jay Leno.
I find since I took politics out of my act, ticket sales are up 20 or 30%.
Wow, interesting.
Well, just people are tired of being lectured to. Either that or they have a preset. I used to do a joke about it. I said, I don't care that Madame Curie was like to be spanked. She was a great scientist. I don't need to know about her personal life. I remember I know where that joke came from, but that was subtle. Like to me, when I go to hear a singer, I want to hear the song. I don't need the lecture. I don't have to agree with them,
Right. Although now I'm gonna Google Madame Curie and spanking. You've got me curious.
Yeah, but it just seemed like a funny. I don't know. I said this in ad lib once and I kind of laughed, but it was just making a point that you're going to find something about everybody that you don't like,
right?
And to go through a number of points until you find one where you disagree. John McCain, when he ran for president, I wrote jokes for him, and he was a great friend of mine.
Wow.
We didn't agree on things, but I had great respect for him because he was a war hero. And again, saying John McCain is not a war hero.
That's so shocking. That is so shocking.
I don't understand.
No, I don't understand that one either.
I don't understand it. Yeah. There's something about when the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, it was based on the attitude that men would change when they got that lofty office. They would become better people. They had reached the highest thing you could get in America, and they would try to live up to a standard. I don't always have to agree with it, but I like to think that they believe it, Yeah. And so, okay, that works, one time I had dinner with Ronald Reagan one time, and he said to me, he goes, Jay, were you a good student, Jay? I go, no, Mr. President, I was a terrible student. He goes, Jay, I was a terrible student too. He said, every day I kick myself, thinking how much further I could have gone if I just applied myself. And it really doesn't matter. But he's president of the United States, Yeah. But if he only applied himself, he could have done better.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was just a funny joke to me. I like that. So I'm as confused by this as I think as most Americans are and most Canadians are. I don't like to disagree with my country when I'm in another country, but this one doesn't make any sense to me. I can't think of a better friend than Canada.
My dad fought in the Second World War and fought with Americans, and he always felt that what other country would you rather live next door to? He had such admiration for those soldiers, so that history is certainly there. Jay Leno will be right back after these messages. What's new this month on Paramount Plus? Well, first up, dive into the intricate web of a powerful crime family in the Paramount Plus original series, Mobland, from Guy Ritchie. Tom Hardy, Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren, and Joanne Froggatt all star. In mid-April, catch the premiere of The Carters, Hurts to Love You. This two-part documentary looks back at teen heartthrobs Nick and Aaron Carter. Their story is told by Aaron's twin sister, Angel, who unpacks the complicated family dynamics that led to the untimely death of 3 of the original 5 Carter kids, as well as their father. Speaking of music documentaries, Paramount Plus has the season 2 premiere of Family Legacy, which offers a peek inside the lives of influential musicians and bands through the lens of their close family members. This season features interviews with relatives of Busta Rhymes, Lil Wayne, Rob Thomas, Daddy Yankee, Lil Jon, and more. There's not little about this month on Paramount Plus. There's lots for the entire family. Check it out.
This month on Super Channel Fuse, check out the Canadian premiere of Night Sleeper, April 17th. In this wide-awake, 6-part thriller, hackers send a Glasgow to London train hurtling towards death and destruction, as two strangers then go to extremes to regain control before it's too late. Meanwhile, over on Super Channel Heart and Home, it's season 2 of When Hope Calls. This spin-off of the smash hit romantic drama When Calls the Heart stars Canadians Cindy Busby and Christopher Russell. She's the new lawyer in town on a mission. He's the Mountie who sees her as a person of interest. Before you can say good day, ma'am, courting ensues. Tune in for Night Sleeper and When Hope Calls, plus uncut, commercial-free movies galore this and every month on Super Channel, available via most cable providers across the country.
Here he is again, Jay Leno. Listen, let's talk a bit about cars, because I drive a 20-year-old Saab. I've got a 9.3 turbo 6, and I love that little car.
But you have the fancy. I have the 2-stroke Saab. You got the fancy
4-stroke.
Yeah, 4-stroke car. Yeah. There you go. You got
Well, I know you know everything you know more about my car than I do. But I see you've got an initiative. You're trying to that the impact of sort of smog restrictions on combustion engines and things. You're mindful of this, right?
Well, the problem is, it's not obviously if you're driving a car that's spewing out smoke and
Right.
and things like that, you're going to get a ticket regardless.
Right.
This is the fact that I have. It used to be a rolling exemption. If a car was 25 years or older, you didn't have to get it smogged because there weren't enough of them on the road. Mm-hmm. Cars from the 90s now can go 200,000-300,000 miles. The idea of a car being worn out in 60 or 70,000 miles is silly. But the trouble is, like I have a 91 GM Cyclone. That's it was a limited production, smaller truck, and they don't make parts for it anymore. But It's only got 17,000 miles on it, which is less than 500 miles a year. So the fact that I have to go out of my way to jury rig it to get it to pass some test, or what people do, they'll register it in another state so that one doesn't have the same smog. I mean, don't make criminals out of people,
Right.
We just want to make it a rolling exemption. If you drive a car from the 90s, or you're a person who can't afford a newer car and your car from the 90s is actually still running fine, the idea that you have to spend a fortune to get it to meet some standard that changes every year a little bit, and it gets tougher and tougher, so
For sure.
That's really all that is. Yeah.
Well, we're talking to you in the background. I see a beautiful black roadster of some sort. What are you?
Oh, Bugatti. Those are.
It is a Bugatti. Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Your car collection is stunning. Are you doing any more Jay Leno Garage episodes?
Oh yeah. We do every week. We do an episode. We're on YouTube now.
That's fantastic.
I've been on it since 2006, and it's great fun. I enjoy it. It's funny. You now get ratings on YouTube that are higher than you get on regular TV. I never thought in my lifetime that TV would not be the dominant industry.
Well, like you say, there's so many commercials now, and my kids don't want to sit and watch commercials ever.
Right.
So if you watch late night now, most people watch it the next day over breakfast in 6-minute chunks, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. You just watch the monologue, whatever. Yeah. The idea of appointment television. Oh, you got to be at your front of your TV at 11:35 to watch what's happening.
But just about the cars again, have you attempted to? And I know you're a great mechanic too. Have you converted any of your collection to electric?
Well, I mean, we live in an era now where electric cars are actually just cheaper to buy than you can actually buy an electric car for less money than it costs you to convert one.
Wow,
I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
you can get the Model Y Tesla, $36,000. Okay, well, it's going to cost you easy that to convert something,
Right.
and it's not going to be as safe or go as far. So yeah, converting was big maybe 10 years ago, but now we've reached the point where, I mean, you have China's flooding the market with really low cost electric cars. So
Yeah. You're right. Doesn't make sense. But
No.
your collection, you have so many beautiful cars. And where I live in Orangeville, every Wednesday in the summer, they gather at a parking lot, and there's 70 amazing, they could be convertibles one week or wagons the next.
But I mean, as I tell wives of friends that it's cheaper than cocaine and girlfriends. At least when they come home reeking of transmission fluid, you know where they've been all afternoon.
Well,
They come home with some glitter and bad perfume, you're in trouble.
That's a bad idea.
Exactly.
But you must wince when you look at a cyber truck from Tesla like this. I don't know, or maybe you think that's I don't know. I look at this. There's a couple of them driving around here, and they just doesn't look like a great car.
I don't get it, but again, it's a bit like getting a young person to watch a black and white movie. It visually doesn't make any sense to them. Pickup trucks have looked the same since basically 1918. Cab in the front, engine in the front, transmission in the middle, pickup bed in the back. I mean, trucks have looked the same, and here comes a truck that looks like something out of Star Wars or, Stormtroopers or one of those things. So it really is an age thing. People over 40 can't stand it, and people under 40 think it's cool.
There you go.
And I get that. It's like rock and roll and rap. They're both music.
Yeah.
But usually one does not like the other, For years, rap was never even considered an Emmy nominated thing. And then all of a sudden, then they, just through force of will and popularity, it won it over. So
it dominates.
So I don't get it. I mean, the Cybertruck is suffering now because of political reasons. And it's a shame because you have a company there. The Cybertruck is 2 tons lighter than the electric GMC Hummer. 2 tons.
Wow.
Because of the technology of lightweight lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that because of one person, a company has to suffer. People are defacing the cars now, which makes no sense to me. Because all you're doing is put more money in his pocket because now the car has to be fixed.
Right.
Okay, so you take it to the Tesla dealer and it makes more money. The idea why some teacher bought a Tesla because it was economical 2 years ago is now considered a Nazi. It boggles my mind.
It is crazy. And I understand that you have an electric car that dates back over 100 years, a 1909 Baker motor vehicle, right? Is that correct?
1909 and 1914.
Oh my!
They had electric cars before you had gas cars.
So yours were like.
The trouble was people didn't have electricity.
That's exactly.
I mean, to make electricity in your house was an impossibility. There were no solar panels. There were no lines to your house. Mm-hmm. So it was easier to go down to the drugstore and get a gallon of gasoline and put that in your car because gasoline was a byproduct of lamp oil. So there's a reason why that was. But yeah, New York had hundreds of electric cars. 1904, 5, 6, 7 as taxis, and they were quiet and they went about 80 miles on a charge.
Wow. Do you still show or drive over to the Big Boy in Brampton on Tuesday nights? They used to have car shows there.
It's in Burbank.
Burbank. Sorry, Burbank.
They still have that,
Yeah.
It's so fun. I was watching a film noir movie from like 1958, and they went to the car night at Bob's Big Boy, and it looks exactly the same. So that's a good deal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Back with more with Jay Leno in just a moment. once again to check in with Emily Gagne to see what's new on Hollywood Suite. Emily, what do you got?
Well, this month, Bill, we've got a new episode of Cinema A to Z, which is our original series. And the topic this time is acting debuts.
Acting. So these are the first films of some famous stars. Go ahead and quiz me. Throw a name at me, see if I can get the film.
How about Barbara Streisand?
Oh, that's The Mirror Has Two Noses. Is that it? No. It's Funny Girl.
Yes,
right.
A little further back, back.
All right. Okay. Well, that sounds pretty good. What else do you have coming up this month?
Well, we've got National Canadian Film Day, April 16th. So we've got Canadian films all day. But if you are in more of a, funny mood, it's April Fool's Day. We've got our LOL collection, got comedies from throughout cinematic history, everything from, The 7-Year Itch to Caddyshack to Liar Liar to The Nice Guys, which I think is an underrated comedy.
Oh, that's a funny film. Well, that sounds great. Looks like a good time to laugh in Canada on Hollywood Suite. Thanks very much, Emily.
Thank you, Bill.
And we're back. Listen, Jay, I wanted to offer just, some. You disclosed recently that your wife Mavis has dementia, and I just wanted to say, on behalf of your fans here, we want to offer some support and sympathy.
It's look, she's not in any pain. It's not like she's racked with pain. It's just. I think it's more the people around you, that kind of feel, but you really have no merit. You have to try and find the humor. I took her a couple of months ago when she was still walking around. I said, come on, let's go to the mall. I'll get you some clothes. No, come on. Okay, so we go to Nordstrom's. Like, let's go in the shoe department. Okay. And she sees these sneakers, these bright blue sneakers, like electric blue. She goes, oh, these are cool. So I guess she sees, how much are those? $24. I give me a pair of those. And she puts them on. You like them? I like them. I said, yeah, honey, they look great. Honey, get another pair. Get another pair if you want. Yeah, okay. So she sees these red and white ones on the table. And she goes, how about these? Yeah, put them on. I said, fine. Honey, put those on. Put the shoes you have on now in the box with the other shoes. Okay, fine. So now I got 2 pairs of shoes, $24. I go up to pay the guy, I give him my credit card. He goes, okay, the $24. Okay, that is $847.
Wow.
I go, no, I said I bought 2 pairs of these sneakers. He goes, yeah, those are $24, but these were designed by or some. And I go, what are you talking about? It looked like the same sneaker that guy hit it with a bedazzler, And I go, and she's already got them on. So now I go, honey, you like those? She goes, yeah, I like these. It just made me laugh. I'm in the position I can afford it. It just made me laugh, and that's what you have to do. You say, look. It's worth the extra $825 to see her smile, So right. It was fun, but it just made me laugh. And I mean, I'm glad I'm in a position where it doesn't break the bank and it's not a month's rent or anything like that, So, and that's really what it is. You try and find the humor in situations. And look, when I was doing the Tonight Show, I was always a homebody. I do the show, then I go home and I pick up some food and I cook dinner for my wife would, me and her. We have dinner and watch TV. I'm still doing that, except now it's just kind of, you watch a lot more Matlocks and Hawaii Five. Anything that's got more than one episode, she's not going to remember the first episode. So
it's great that you have that. My mom has dementia, and she's quite elderly, and I get a kick out of. I think she's not quite sure who I am because she doesn't imagine her son would have a big white beard, Right. So, but it's always a delight to see her, and we're lucky for that way for sure.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, she's not racked in pain and screaming and, all that kind of stuff. So,
and how are you doing? My goodness, there are a few headlines. You had an accident or two. Everything is healed. Your wrist was broken.
I tell you, it's great for ticket sales. It's
well,
really hilarious.
The Casino Rama parking lot is well lit. Just be careful. There's no.
Yeah. Well, what's so funny? You get the first one free. Like when I got a face full of gas and my face caught fire. Yeah. Oh, to poor Jay. Da, 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 da. Then 2 months later, I'm riding my motorcycle. The guy had a wire across the parking lot with no flag on it. And boom, the wire hit my face and tore it right across here. Just,
oh, my God.
So I called my face guy and I go, listen, I need another face, He said, all right, come on in again. So I got another face. And it just made, then I became the accident-prone Leno. And I was in Pittsburgh doing a show, and the hotel was on a high hill, and I could see the restaurant at the bottom of the hill. And I said, how do I get down to the restaurant? The guy goes, well, there's no stairs. It's about 1.5 miles or 2 miles. You got to take the road and go, I don't want to walk 2 miles. I'll just go down this hill. Of course, I had dress shoes on and it was raining. So I just slid down and smashed my face on the pavement. And hilarious. So, it's just so stupid. It's so stupid.
Well, compliments to your face guy, first of all. Nice job. Looked great.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention one joke you told. I listened to you. You were on with David Spade and Dana Carvey on their podcast, and you told them, you said that you don't do Twitter anymore, but you told a joke there about you had a motorcycle accident. And what was the rest of it? Is that you slammed into Jeremy Renner's snowmobile.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. I came around the corner and they hit Jeremy on his.
There you go.
Well, that's when that was a big story. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very funny. You're very funny on that podcast. It was fun to listen to. Do you listen to podcasts? You sort of see them as the late night talk shows of today in a way, aren't they?
I think it really is. Plus you own it, and you can. If it's a dull interview, it's over in 15 minutes. If it's an interesting interview, it could be 1.5 hours. That's what I find fascinating about. I enjoy the podcast. Yeah.
What are some of the ones that you listen to? Are there regulars for you, or?
Well, I listen to a lot of automotive ones. I like history. I'm a watch guy, so I like the watch ones. Anything mechanical, anything that rolls, explodes, and makes noise. I don't like these ones where comedians attack one another, and because I just don't like to see people in the industry fighting like that. But I try. Rogan. I listen to everybody. Yeah.
Do you find that the pendulum has swung a bit? It seemed like for several years everything was so cautious in terms of jokes and comedy that you could get canceled. Things maybe are opening up a bit more, do you think?
Well, it's really funny. People have very short memories. I'm old enough. I remember Lenny Bruce. Mm-hmm. And it changed right after Lenny when the Warren Commission came in and everything became legal. Pornography, free space, you could say whatever you wanted. But in the late 60s in New York, if you worked in clubs, you got a cabaret card, which was a license to be on stage and perform. And if you used an obscenity, said the F word, whatever it might be, a cop could come up, tear your card in half, and you didn't work. Wow. That was it. I remember Abby Hoffman coming to Boston when I was in college and using the F word on microphone in the Boston Commons. And nobody ever heard that word through a loudspeaker in front of thousands, and got arrested. And now it's sort of swung the other way. It's funny. Do you ever see this website called Dry Bar Comedy?
No.
It's out of Utah.
Okay.
Which is very, religious, no drinking, no nothing.
Right.
But it's really funny comedy because it's just comedy. you're relying on the joke. There's no shock value. There's no obscenity. There's nothing where you're like, oh my gosh. They said a lot of times I hate it when the punchline is just the F word. And I go, that's not really a punchline.
Right.
There's a likeness to it. So I think having certain barriers in comedy and being able to walk right up to that line without crossing it, I think that's part of the fun. When I would do the Letterman show, obviously you couldn't use obscenities, and it was fun to come up with things that sounded like obscenities. I remember talking to Dave, and Dave, they'd go to the carnival and they have these syphilitic druids running a machine. Let them go, syphilitic druids? Yes, they were druids with syphilis. Can you imagine? And it was funnier than saying the F word or just because it was a little more creative. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that challenge, to me, the fun of obscenity is you use them occasionally to really make a point, wherever it might be. And that's okay. When it's constant, it just seems like, all right, no, it's just another word. So I don't know. I like the Japanese approach to these things. Huh. In America, when cars couldn't meet emissions, the Americans lobbied, and you're going to lose jobs, unions will lose workers, blah, blah. The Japanese went to Washington and said, tell us what the rules are, we'll meet them. They took the rule, came back with that CVVC engine that Honda had that met emissions and was efficient, and thank you. Tell me what the rules are, and I'll go as close to them as I can. And that's the fun part, So I don't really have any problem with it.
I remember in Canada for a while, they one of the networks here was showing the Osbournes. Remember that series was very popular 15 years ago, and they aired it without the bleeps, and it was half as funny because the bleeps made it funnier. It was less, just the language just kind of devalued it in a way.
Well, I remember Johnny Carson did that one time. He was mad for that reason, and he said, all right, let's just bleep now. And he said, anyway, so this guy takes out his bleep and he goes over to the woman's bleep. Yeah, so now you're all imagining what's actually happening, Right. And when we really wasn't saying anything at all, it's just this people filling in the bleep. And it was a very funny routine. I remember he did that a bunch of times.
Yeah. Are there some young up and coming comedians that you perk up?
They're really a lot of really good comics out there. Yeah. Nate Bargatze makes me laugh. He's clean comic, funny, and it's stories, it's the kind of material you can't steal because it's his life. And that's what I like,
Yeah. I think you were quoted too about your car collection. It's more about the stories than the cars in some ways. Do you have a story about a Canadian car in your collection?
Oh, a Canadian car. Well, yeah, I do have a Canadian car. I have a car called the Ford 7-liter. My dad bought one in '66. I tricked my dad into, I've told this story, but I was 16, and my dad was not a car guy. My dad would go into a car showroom, whatever they had on the floor, he'd buy that, and that was fine. If it didn't have a radio, we didn't have a radio. So we go into the Ford dealer, and in '66, it was all Mustangs and Falcons.
Yeah.
But where are the big cars? Where's the Galaxies? That's what I want, a big Galaxy. Oh, Miss Leno, come on, let's go with the Chevy guy across the street. And the guy said, Miss Leno, Tom Lawrence. That was the salesman's name. I just remembered it. He says, you can order a car, Miss Leno. I said, Pop, let's order one. You like the Galaxy. You got a '64 Galaxy. You like Ford. He goes, yeah, I like Ford. Let's order a Galaxy. Okay. So I said, Dad, let me talk to the guy. So I said to the guy, give me the order sheet. Like I said, we want the police pursuit package. We want the 428 engine. It's the muffler delete option.
Wow.
I couldn't get my dad to get a stick, so we had to get the automatic. It was a C6. Okay, fine. So anyway, my father didn't know what he signed. He just signs it, I said to my mom, can I pick the engine? My mother, let the boy pick the engine. We'll give us the 428. The biggest engine at that point was the 390. 428 had just come out. But we want the police pursuit package, heavy duty radiator, heavy duty shocks, just everything that I would be trying. So, okay. So Well, 6 weeks later, the car comes in, right? And my father goes, bucket seat. I want a bench. I want a bucket seat. Dad, they come with buckets. That's the thing. No, oh, fuck. Oh, all right, fine. Get bucket seat. Fine. So we all get in the car. My dad puts the key in. He said, he goes, because there's a hole in the muffler. It's a new car. There's a hole in the damn muffler. No, Mr. Leno, you ordered the muffler delete option. What do you mean muffler delete? What the hell would I order muffler? Well, look. And then my father sees it's checked. He realized that now he knows he's been had. Oh my God, that's pure. You go, just get in the goddamn car. So my dad, he gets mad now. He puts it in gear and nails it, and the car goes. It slides across the showroom floor. I go, that's a damn rocket ship. What the hell did I buy you now? He's screaming at me, right? So we get home, and then 2 weeks later, I'm in my parents' bedroom looking for something, and I see a ticket on my dad's dresser. He got a ticket for going 110. And my dad was in insurance. He was the manager of the insurance. And all the younger guys, all the salesmen were guys in their late 20s, And now my dad had the fastest car in the office. So he took him out to show off with him one day. And he got nailed at 110. It just made me laugh.
That's fast, boy.
In Canada I built an exact replica of that car, which I still have now.
Oh, cool. And,
except I got a Roush 427, and it's got a 6-speed, and it's got 700 horsepower. It's a very fast car.
I bet. Well, I remember my friends had a twin. They bought a couple of ex-police cars, Dodge Polaris, 1970. They were like surfboards with giant engines in them, right? Boy,
right. Yeah, remember the Blues Brothers? Cop tires, cop transmission, cop engine. They always so that's what you look for.
When was the last time you got a ticket?
I haven't had it.
You've never had a speeding ticket?
No. I'm. You do a lot of benefits.
Well, good for you. Good for you. That's awesome.
But I tell you something. If you're by yourself, most cops tend to be car guys.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if you're a female officer, then it gets a little tricky. They're not quite as car-centric. Yeah. But for the most part, if you're dicing with another car, you're screwed. You get no breaks. But if you're putting your foot in a little bit and you're by yourself and you're not drunk and you're respectful, they'll cut you some slack. So it's just not too bad. It's not too bad.
What's your current favorite ride?
I like everything here. If I had a favorite, I wouldn't have all these cars. So
of course.
I watch the TV show Hoarders, and I go, what's the problem? I mean, there's still a little path. You can get to the bedroom. Look, see? See all the piles of newspapers? What's wrong with that? He's got copies of the newspapers. So what? Yeah. I mean, I watch Hoarders, and I don't see the problems. So, yeah, it's a little different.
That's hilarious. Well, Jay, thank you very much for your time. Been very generous, and continued success. Break a leg at Casino Rama in May 2nd with Arsenio Hall. Have fun.
And tell Canada thanks for having us. It's an honor. It's an honor to go there, especially. I'm surprised they haven't canceled all American Entertainers. So I would certainly understand if they wanted to do that.
There's no tariff on laughter. Yeah, so far so good, right?
At least not yet.
Oh, don't even joke. All right. Thanks so much for your time. All right. Take care.
Thank you, my friend.
My thanks again to Jay Leno for his time and his candor. And, always a pleasure. I could talk to Jay Leno for hours just about cars. And he has quite a collection, over 200. He and his special guest, Arsenio Hall, will be performing live on stage at Casino Rama on May 2nd. So better hurry if you want tickets. Find them at casinorama.com/entertainment. My thanks, as always, to Phil Hong for jaywalking me through this episode. Kudos to BJ Del Conte, Paul Boudra, the Crispy Critters, and Stephen Dudley for the music heard on this podcast. Finally, thanks to you, listener. If you like what you heard, please spread the word. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.